Part 6. Pirate's Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 51. Naturally, I knelt down not because I surrendered, but because I was so frightened that my legs went weak. Who is Aaron? Others don't know clearly, but Colonel Mouse naturally knows clearly. Over the years, he and Aaron have always been in cahoots. Otherwise, it is impossible for the Navy to ignore the matter of KKC Village. After all, although the Navy has double standards, not all of them are bad guys. Isn't Luffy's grandfather also serving as a lieutenant general in the Navy? Moreover, this old man was born in the East China Sea. When he went home to visit his relatives, a sweep in the East China Sea was enough for the pirates in the East China Sea to experience the horror of the world's top combat power in advance. Luo Gu even felt that the main reason why the bounties of pirates in the East China Sea were generally low was because of the existence of this old man. Aaron is an anomaly among them. The reason why he has been able to stay safe for 8 years is precisely because of Colonel Mouse's deception. Suddenly seeing Aaron's body at this time, the whole person's courage was vented at once. "Hey, are you okay?" Luo Gu tilted his head and looked at Colonel Mouse kindly. "Take a closer look to see if this is the Aaron. I went to Aaron's domain in Kokoyashi village yesterday and took care of this guy. Of course, I didn't intend to kill him, it was an accident. But if I remember correctly, the wanted order says death or life, so with the million, should you get married?" Ah, Colonel Mouse looked at Luo Gu dumbfounded, and forgot to say anything for a moment. After recovering to his senses, anger started from his heart, and evil came to his gallbladder. Over the years, he has received a lot of benefits from Aaron's hands, and it is a very useful purse. As a result, the money bag was actually destroyed by Luo Gu. Destroying someone's wealth is like killing one's parents. Colonel Mouse was furious. He was about to jump up and command his subordinates to attack. At the same time, he had already listed a series of charges against Luo Gu in his mind. The Navy must be careless in doing things. Let's just say that this kid killed innocent people indiscriminately, killed anyone at random, and came here to defraud the bounty. But before he could say anything, there was already an extra hand on his shoulder, and when he raised his head, he met Luo Gu's eyes. There seems to be nothing special about what the eyes want to say. It was just a sudden touch, and an icy chill spread all over the body in an instant. The trembling that rose from the tailbone climbed all the way to the hair. What I was going to say was swallowed back with a thud, and my legs began to tremble uncontrollably. Luo Gu smiled. "Is the colonel planning to renege on the debt? We are pirate hunters, and we make a living by pinning our heads on the belt and licking blood from the knife edge. If the colonel reneges..." Luo Gu didn't say the following words, but the meaning was obvious. Colonel Mouse also recovered from his rage at this time, first glanced at his subordinates, and then at Aaron's body on the ground. After so many years of contact, he knows exactly what kind of strength Aaron possesses. Since this person died in Luo Gu's hands, even if the people he brought today fight against Luo Gu, the result will definitely not be particularly beautiful. Right now, if there is a deviation in my response, it is very likely that my life will be ruined here. I really made the person in front of me anxious. Once he killed himself, he only needed to change the flag and be a pirate at ease, but he filled it in for nothing. Thinking of this, he had already made a decision, and he forced his mouth to smile and said, How is it possible? Our Navy will not deny it?" That's good, Luo Gu said with a smile. "Take the money." Colonel Mouse rolled his eyes, but before he finished speaking, he heard Luo Gu's voice. "Let your subordinates go and get it." Luo Gu smiled and said, 20 million. Colonel Mouse looked sad, and glanced at the cronies next to him. "Go, get the money on the ship." "Ah! How much?" The confidant's face was full of confusion, and he didn't understand why his boss suddenly gave up. However, in this situation, he can't make up his own mind, he can only be obedient. As much as you have, take as much as you want, Colonel Mouse almost shouted. Yes. The confidant saluted immediately, and then returned to his ship with a thud. After a while, he brought several money bags. Report to the colonel, there are only so many on our ship. Colonel Mouse looked at Luogu flatteringly, 20 million, we really didn't bring that much. These are, how many are these? He was asking his cronies the last sentence. A total of 12 million. Here are 12 million. When he said this, Colonel Mouse felt that his tears were about to fall. This is for Shaobao burning. I came here to ask for money. Why did I bring so much money with me? 12 million, Luogu sighed, forget it, just make do with it. He let go of Colonel Mouse, then Colonel, go slowly, I won't see you off. Colonel Mouse was suddenly relieved, without even saying a word on the scene, he returned to the big ship with his people. The two ships moved away suddenly, and Colonel Mouse standing on the deck yelled at Luogu, you dare to threaten the navy? Let me tell you, what's your name? In the middle of speaking, he suddenly remembered that he didn't know Luogu's name yet. Rogu smiled and said, Noros Rogu. Okay, let me tell you, Noros Rogu, your pirate hunter has come to an end, and from today onwards, you are a pirate floating in the sea. A pirate? Colonel Mouse was furious. Luogu was silent when he heard the words, and then silently came to stand on the side of the ship. One hand pressed on the handle of the knife, and the blade slowly came out of its sheath. Lenjiu Yishi. The great strength is the foundation, the heart, and the moon are the bones. The knife has never been raised, but the waves have been born. Suddenly, the light of the knife burst, like a crescent moon crossing the sea, plowing across the sea, heading straight for Colonel Mouse's naval ship. What? While Colonel Mouse was dumbfounded, the crescent moon was already approaching. The huge crescent moon and the huge ship came into contact suddenly, but without a sound. Like a hot knife cutting through butter, the crescent moon flashed and disappeared without a trace. The Navy's warships were also split into two without a sound. Colonel Mouse, who was standing at the bow, was dumbfounded, and the sea water poured down his face. He couldn't tell whether the wetness of his pants was due to the sea water or the fear of urinating. He touched his head, I'm still alive. Passing by such a terrifying guy, he is still alive. However, when he looked up at Luogu again, his face suddenly turned pale. I saw Luogu facing him, raised the black pill in his hand again, swung it suddenly, and the air blade flew across the air. He was still muttering in his mouth, that is to say, Colonel Mouse couldn't hear his voice, otherwise he would have died of anger before being hacked to death. It turned out to be crooked. Pirate's Bounty, Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 52. Under a clear sky, Luogu was reading a letter under a sun umbrella. Point 1 Kanju. The letter was from Lester. God knows why this guy was able to write a letter to himself even in the vast sea. All I can say is that communication bird is truly omnipotent. This letter just arrived in Luogu's hands 2 days after Luogu hacked Colonel Mouse and his party, that is, today. Stupid Rogu. The beginning of this letter is filled with the mental retardation of Lester. Luogu shook his head helplessly, then looked down. Kabi and I are dining at the Shanghai restaurant. Have you heard of the Sea Restaurant? This is a restaurant that you must come to whenever you are in the East China Sea. The dishes in the restaurant are something that many people have never seen in their lives, or even heard of it. As I said, this delicacy is enough to make people crazy, which makes everyone who comes here wish they had 4 stomachs. And some news I heard by accident in the restaurant on the sea reminded me of you, the stupid one. So, I must tell you now, be careful, because your name has been on the must-kill list of all the pirates in the East China Sea. This means that you already have enough popularity in the East China Sea, but it will inevitably bring countless dangers. Stupid you, if your goal is only in the East China Sea, then you have succeeded now. You can even go back to Moon Village now and live with peace of mind. But if your goal is still far away, I will wait for you in Marinfordo. May you be foolish and ugly, struggling great Lester. Luogu put down the letter and rubbed his eyebrows. The paper is full of absurd words, this mentally handicapped person. He glanced at the communication bird on the ship's side, with one foot tied and his face full of tears. Luogu thought for a moment, took out a pen and paper, and wrote a letter to Lester. Stupid brother. The content of the opening chapter is similar, mainly expressing that he will definitely go to Marineford and kick Lester's ass. Then he talked about the Cocoa West village in the letter, focusing on the deal between Colonel Mouse and Aaron, and asked him to investigate this before going to Marineford if he had time. Aspects of things. Even, this may become another capital for him to go to Marineford for training. The final signature is, your great brother, the strongest pirate hunter Noros Rogu. After finishing writing, he suddenly felt that the whole text seemed to be filled with an aura called mental retardation. Finally, he shook his head and was too lazy to change it. He closed the envelope, put it into the communication bird's pocket, and then untied the rope. The communication bird was suddenly relieved, no money was needed, and he just spread his wings and flew. After circling Luogu for 2 laps, Su felt that the sky was letting the birds fly away, and all of a sudden he lashed out at Luogu. With a flash of Luogu's sword, the cold light rushed towards the sky against the communication bird's feathers. The communication bird was so scared that it almost went bald, and half of the feathers fell off, so it hurried away from Luogu. Luogu shouted from a distance, "Payment is due." After the communication bird heard it, it turned back and yelled at Luogu twice. It didn't understand the language and didn't know what the stupid bird said. It just drifted away and finally disappeared. Luogu returned to the recliner and sat down, picked up the newspaper sent by the communication bird. When I was about to look, I saw a few bags of money under the umbrella and sighed. Although I had obtained 12 million from Colonel Mouse before, unfortunately, the money could not be included in the hunter's license as a bounty. The reason is probably because of Aaron's body. Colonel Mouse and the others did not take it away. So, it's not bounty, it's blackmail. Although, Luogu does not agree. However, this matter is reasonable and unclear. After all, the hunter's license will not communicate with Luogu. Now that 2 days have passed, Aaron's body smells like fish, and he doesn't know how long he can last. The nautical charts were all turned upside down by Luogu and he didn't see any islands stationed by the navy around him, so he had no choice but to move forward in the established direction. Worry sang. At this point, Luogu truly realized the consequences of accidentally killing Aaron. This is definitely not just a simple matter of killing a person. Not only the bounty is reduced, but also a series of follow-up problems, which are more troublesome than catching alive. Between self-pity and self-pity, he glanced casually, and saw a black spot in the distance. Slightly stunned, then his eyes lit up, pirate, or navy. At this moment, no matter whether he met a pirate or a navy, Luogu was happy. On the one hand, it means generating income, and on the other hand, it means that Aaron's body can be disposed of. In exchange for a bounty, it also means generating income. Immediately put down the unopened newspaper, adjusted the angle, and drove towards the black spot. 10 minutes later, the black spot was close at hand. Not a pirate, because there is no pirate flag. It's not a warship either. Warship Luogu knows him. This is a very big boat, the bow is in the shape of a fish head, and the sail is only 2 masts, but it is surprisingly big. On both sides of the hull are decks the size of a small square, and in the middle is a 3-story building. Throughout the world of One Piece, there seems to be only one ship in this shape, see Restaurant Barty. In the letter just now, Lester was showing off to himself how good the restaurant on the sea was, but he didn't expect to meet him like this. So, Lester is really not in a hurry on this journey. I was running here and there was only 2 days difference between my schedule and his schedule. The same thing happened to that guy in Keithstown before. Just left, could he be walking the same route as me? Shaking his head a little dumbfounded, Luogu stopped the boat, lowered a small boat, and slid to the specially reserved spot in the restaurant on the sea. Stepping onto the deck of the Shanghai restaurant, and glancing at the scattered guests around, Luogu was in a daze for a moment. Is this on the sea, or on the pedestrian street? Scattered guests may have finished their meal and are strolling and digesting. There were people chatting together in twos and threes, a man and a woman who were mellow, and there were also 2 old men who were shoulder to shoulder. The restaurant building in the middle of the ship, with entrances on both sides. When Luogu came to the gate, someone said, "Welcome to the Sea Restaurant Baladi." Glancing at the strong man who was smiling all over his face, Luogu rubbed his nose and said nothing. The hall was bustling with people, although it could not be said that there were no empty seats, but there were not many vacant seats. He casually found a place to sit down, and a blond young man came over with a cigarette in his mouth. "Sir, what do you want to eat?" With cold eyes, suddenly curly eyebrows, a straight black suit and black hard-toed shoes, the whole person's attire is full of the demeanor of a cold and male god. It's a pity that it's an info. Luogu took the menu from his hand and glanced at it. 8 out of 10 dishes were unknown, and he sighed helplessly, "Please help me order." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate's Bounty, Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 53. With the help of curly eyebrows, a table of dishes was quickly placed in front of Luogu. Da Chung. There are top quality steaks, fresh and tender fish, fresh soup that has been boiled for several days, and various dishes that Luogu has never heard of or seen. And the taste is indeed commendable. After all the dishes were served, the young man with curly eyebrows stood beside Luogu again. "Do you need anything else?" "Well, that's basically it." Luogu glanced at him, then smiled. "Speaking of which, can you help me prepare a big box filled with ice cubes?" "Big box?" The young man froze for a moment. "Sir, do you have any fish that needs to be kept fresh? If you want to sell it, our restaurant will accept it." "No, it's not a fish, it's a corpse," Luogu said, "the corpse of a pirate." "The corpse, so the big box you asked for is actually a coffin." "You can say that." Luogu smiled. No curly eyebrows gave Luogu a cold look, and then said, "Please be sure to eat all the dishes without leaving any leftovers. Although there is no threat, it is obvious that if you don't finish eating, something terrible may happen." Luogu smiled. "It's really scary." He didn't argue with him. In fact, Roga looked at him the same way he looked at Usopp in Syrup Village. "Sentimental little apple, I look forward to meeting and growing up with you." Sighing softly, Luogu began to focus on the food in front of him. He decided that if that Ajin hadn't appeared after the meal, he would leave. The strongest man in the East China Sea has been easily defeated. He can't wait to leave here and go to the Great Sea route. Rog Town, just make it the last stop. On one side of the restaurant, a man and a woman were feasting. The woman looked about 20 years old, with blonde hair, but she was wearing a hat with the same color as her hair. She looked youthful and beautiful, and there was an umbrella next to her seat. While cutting the steak, she said, "I didn't expect that there would be such a good place in the East China Sea. There is no such a good restaurant on the Great Shipping Route." The man sitting opposite her was wearing a brown windbreaker, sunglasses of the same color, and his curly hair was permed. His expression was slightly serious. When he was eating, he occasionally glanced at Luogu, who had just entered the door, and said in a low voice, "The order from above is for us to come here to find a pirate hunter and invite him to join the Baroque Work Club. Speaking of which, Dong Hai, I don't really care about the restaurant. What I care more about is that there are some great people in Dong Hai who need us to come and invite us in person." Noros Rogu. The woman said, "The exact age is unknown. It is said that a few months ago, he just went to sea as a pirate hunter, but he has already made great achievements. All the pirates with relatively high bounties in the entire East China Sea were caught by him. Among them, Bucky the Clown, and a pirate who has been cheating his own death for several years. The former captain of the Black Cat Pirates, Beiji Crow. These two people, one is a 15 million pirate, and the other is a 16 million pirate. They are no small people." Bucky the Clown. The man whispered, "As far as I know, this man was once a member of Roger the Pirate King's crew." "One Piece has been dead for more than years," the woman said nonchalantly. "Some people have become 4 emperors, and some people have less than million. I guess he may plan to retire in the East China Sea, but I didn't expect he was actually caught by that fledgling boy." "So, you don't think that guy is strong?" "Who?" "Noros Rogu." The woman stopped eating the meat. "What did you find?" "The guy who came in just now, haven't you seen his face?" The man lowered his head and continued to eat. The woman turned her head, and then locked her eyes on Luogu. If Luogu felt it, he raised his head and looked at her. The woman grinned subconsciously. Luogu smiled, wiped the corners of her mouth with a handkerchief, and then raised the red wine in her hand as a signal. "This guy is interested in me." The woman smiled at the man. "Is it him?" The man took a photo from his pocket. Luogu in the photo is smiling and waving to the surroundings. Looking at the background of the photo, it should be the day when Rogu handed over the clown Bucky and others to the Navy, and someone secretly took the photo. After looking at the photo carefully, the woman nodded. "The target person automatically appears in front of us, which is a good thing. What do you think?" The man glanced at the woman. "Although the higher UPS asked us to invite him, if his own strength is average, I don't think the higher UPS will invite a waste to join us." The woman glanced at Luogu, chuckled and said, "So, at least let us see what he is capable of." Half an hour later, there was only the bottom of the plate left in front of Luogu. He patted his stomach and belched, shook the chair creakingly, glanced at the woman who had been giving him all the time, and scratched his nose. "There is no reward, but just looking at their appearance, it's really a bit strange. Looks familiar." Gently knocked on the forehead. "Baroque Works." In fact, Luogu didn't know much about this Baroque Work Club, and he didn't know what they mainly did. It seems that the boss crocodile has recruited a group of people to carry out some conspiracy, and there are many pirate hunters under them. Whiskey Peak is the home of a large group of pirate hunters and a branch of the Baroque Working Society. Crocodile's words are indeed a good target for a sword test, but more importantly, the historical text of the Royal Cemetery of the Kingdom of Alabasta. While picking his teeth with a toothpick, Luogu supported his head with one arm. Besides, the Robin who can interpret the historical text is there, and the others are fine. It is necessary to fight for this Robin, because she's really helpful. Thinking of this, Luogu stood up. "Although I don't know why the two guys from Baroque Works appeared in the sea restaurant, but since they are here, don't let them go." He was about to let them take him to the Kingdom of Alabasta, which would save him a lot of effort. A man and a woman not far away were always watching Luogu's movements. When they saw Luogu standing up, they looked at each other and were about to get up and follow. However, in the next second, they realized that this guy was actually walking towards them. There was a sneer of disdain on the corner of the woman's mouth. "This guy, he didn't come here to strike up a conversation with me, did he?" "Then what are you going to do?" When the man spoke, he subconsciously pinched his nostrils. "Of course it is," accepted the corner of the woman's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. Pirate's bounty don't run away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 54. Good afternoon, you two. Luogu stood in front of the two of them, with a smile on the corner of his mouth, looking very shy. The two of them looked at Luogu, who smiled and said, "Excuse me for disturbing you, but can I sit down?" Ha 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 ha. The woman covered her mouth and laughed loudly, seemingly reserved, "Of course. Please sit down." The man looked at the chair next to him. Luogu sat down and glanced at the man's face, as if the booger could be used as a bomb. Because the plot is too long ago, Luogu can't remember the details clearly. Anyway, it's a pretty dirty skill. Then it fell to the woman again. R5's partner seems to be called ISS Valentine. It's just that the state of this woman looks a little strange now, like a peacock in heat, looking beautiful. I noticed you just now. Luogu was organizing opportunities to talk, and ISS Valentine had already come over. "Do you like me?" Luogu thought about it seriously, and felt that he didn't seem to have done anything that would be misunderstood, except for the woman's crazy glances at him just now. No matter how you look at it, it seems that you are treating yourself as the one who struck up a conversation. He rubbed his nose, glanced at the surrounding environment, and felt that this place was really not suitable, so he said with a smile, "I have a boat. Are you two interested in accepting my invitation to sit on my boat? If you abduct people onto the boat, you won't be afraid that they won't take you away." As for their refusal to accept the invitation, Luogu thought that it should not be difficult for him to control the two of them within the time limit. Therefore, rather than saying that he is inviting, it is better to say that he is giving an ultimatum, and when he speaks, he is ready to abduct them. Unexpectedly, after saying these words, the eyes of both of them suddenly brightened. "Really?" ISS Valentine asked in surprise. "We accept your invitation," R5 said silently. Luogu feels that this world is too crazy. Why are the prey so active now? And their initiative went far beyond that. They even took the initiative to help Luogu pay the bill. Finally, under their urging, Luogu hurried back without even having time to have a proper chat with the guy with curly eyebrows. "On board." "Wow, what a great ship." As soon as ISS Valentine got on the boat, she started shouting, "Besides, the bow of this boat is so beautiful." Luogu silently remembered it in his heart, and decided to replace the bow as soon as he arrived in Lugetown. "Are you alone on the boat?" R5 asked in a low voice. Luogu nodded. "Then let's help you." R5 took the initiative to help pull up the sail and pull up the anchor. When Luogu adjusted his direction, he was blindfolded. If the two of them were not on his own boat now, he would have thought that he was the abducted person. The wind pushes the sail, and the sail drives the boat, and the boat sails on the sea. Luogu thought in his heart that if these two people took the initiative, they probably had a purpose. Considering that there are so many pirate hunters among the subordinates of Baroque works, it is almost conceivable that these two people are looking for their own goals. This is getting more interesting. Luogu looked at the two people on the upper deck with a smile on his lips. "When we get to the right place, we should meet each other, right?" The mind immediately calmed down, and after handling the direction of navigation, Luogu came to the upper deck and said with a smile, "You two, haven't you introduced yourself yet? We know who you are." ISS Valentine's eyes are smiling like crescent moons, the most powerful pirate hunter in the East China Sea in the past 20 years, Noros Rogu. R5 nodded, "But we also have to introduce ourselves. I am R5, and she is my partner ISS Valentine. We are from Baroque Works. You don't need to know what Baroque Works is now. We are here. The purpose is just to invite you to join us." Luogu scratched his head, feeling that this was a little faster than he imagined. Now he grinned. "The interesting thing is, if you don't tell me what the Baroque Works is, why should I join you?" No. ISS Valentine stretched out a finger and shook it twice. The reason why we don't tell you now is because we are not sure yet whether you are qualified to join us. After all, we can invite both of you people. If their strength is a mess, we will be in trouble. Luogu clapped his hands. That makes sense. So what? So. With her exclusive exaggerated smile, ISS Valentine opened her umbrella, but her body rose out of thin air and was already in mid-air in the blink of an eye. So, let us see if you have the qualifications to join us. Luogu looked up at her, then fell silent, his face flushed slightly. Ara Allah, your expression is really unbearable. ISS Valentine looked at Luogu in mid-air. Have you never seen someone like me? We Baroque, the senior agents of the agency, are all devil fruit users. If you don't have the corresponding abilities, it will be difficult for you to gain a foothold among us. Luogu nodded, and then asked, so, you two are senior agents of Baroque Works? Of course. ISS Valentine said proudly, if you are strong enough, you can also become a senior agent, but, unless the existing senior agents are dead, otherwise, even if you are strong enough, it will be difficult to become one of them. Hearing this, Luogu nodded again, thank you for telling me this. For this reason, I also decided to tell you one thing in return. What? ISS Valentine's Day was confused. What? When you use this trick in the future, don't wear a skirt. Luogu looked up, his face flushed slightly, it's so embarrassing. R5. Is Valentine's Day. Speaking of which. R5 suddenly said, I seem to have never paid attention to this matter before. As he said that, he looked up. ISS was furious on Valentine's Day, don't raise your head. 10,000 kilograms, the weight of Mount Tai. Like the pop falling, there was a loud roar and the deck shattered. R5 didn't even lift its head completely, but it crashed directly into the kitchen on the next floor. Luogu took 2 steps forward, looked down from the hole in the deck, and saw ISS Valentine sitting on R5, breathing heavily, and suddenly raised his head and glared at Luogu. Luogu coughed dryly and asked, is that guy okay? Pirate's Bounty, don't run away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 55. It's okay. We are senior agents of Baroque Works. How could such an attack be possible? He died. Before she could finish what she wanted to say, ISS Valentine looked down and took a closer look, and then discovered that R5 was out of breath. Point 1 Kanju. For a moment, ISS was confused about Valentine's Day. Luogu was not very surprised. He looked up and looked at the height where ISS Valentine was staying just now. At that height, plus the force of 5 kilograms, and when R had no defense at all, it would be too much to kill him directly. Normal. It's over, how could he die? ISS Valentine grabbed R5's neck collar with both hands and shook it hard. Hey, you lied to me, right? How could you die so easily? What should I do if you die? Attack my partner, and I will kill you directly. R0 will not let me go. Hey, come back to life. The swing was so fast that Luogu could only see an afterimage of R5's head shaking from above, making him dizzy. Rubbing his eyes, Luogu jumped down from the hole. I said, the dead cannot be resurrected. ISS looked at Luogu with tears streaming down her face on Valentine's Day. I heard Luogu say, so, let's talk about the issue of compensation. Do you still have humanity? ISS was dumbfounded on Valentine's Day. His companion had just died. What kind of compensation did this guy actually discuss with him? This product is not a pirate hunter at all, is it? This guy is a monster, right? I didn't kill the person, Luogu said. The grudge between you happened on my ship and caused damage to my ship. Therefore, compensation is a matter of course, right? But there is no grievance between us at all, okay? Murder without grievances? Sure enough, you are even less human. It's not because of you. I just kindly remind you. If you didn't say that, how could he look up? How could I be angry for a while? It's their freedom to look up. The whole sky and the sea are free. What's wrong with looking up at the sky? You just killed someone because of such a trivial matter, and then you are still here thinking it is really not a good person to refuse to pay compensation. ISS is going crazy on Valentine's Day. What kind of mess is this? The most important thing is that R5 is dead, and she has no way to explain this matter to the organization. How did you die? Because R5 looked up. Was he sat on his butt to death? Don't say R0, even if you heard this before, you would never believe it. How to do? ISS Valentine forced himself to calm down. The most important thing at the moment is not that R5 is dead, but how he died. You just sat on your ass to death. Luogu wrote the lyrics beside him. Yes, it's me. ISS Valentine said this, and suddenly roared, but you can never say that, just say that he met the enemy in the East China Sea, and after a fierce battle, he was finally defeated and killed. Luogu nodded. So, who killed him? Who is the strongest person in the East China Sea? Iron Fist Carp from the Navy headquarters. Luogu was thoughtful. How could such a big shot fight with us? ISS Valentine said angrily. If R0 knows about our fight with Iron Fist Carp, we will definitely be labeled as overestimating our capabilities. The most important thing is that in the hands of such a big shot, we can't escape at all. Okay. If R5 dies, I must die too. Oh, if you don't count that kind of big man, the strongest before is probably Aaron, the leader of the dragon pirates in Aaron's domain. Luogu said. The Aaron domain where that guy is located has become the leader of this area. Taboo at sea. The big pirate with a bounty of million. ISS Valentine's eyes lit up. That's him. Luogu pondered. What's wrong? ISS Valentine's eyes looked at Luogu with a bad premonition. Luogu grinned and said, Aaron is dead. How is it possible? Isn't he the strongest in the East China Sea? I said before. Then who killed him? It seems like it was me, but it was an accident. It turned out to be an accident, a ghost. ISS Valentine roared madly, my last escape route has been blocked by you, what should I do? Speaking of this, she suddenly stared at Luogu with malicious intent. Luogu smiled and said, are you planning to let me take the blame? Don't say it so harshly, ISS said with a smile. On Valentine's Day, it's because when I invited you, you were dismissive, which aroused R5's anger, and his tone was a little harsh towards you, and then you told him kill me. You are too powerful, and I am no match for you, so I can only run back and inform the organization about this matter, and ask the organization to send people to support you. What do you think of this reason? I always feel that everything is wrong, and it seems that there is nothing wrong. Luogu muttered and said, but I think the second half of you is quite boring. First, if I want to keep you, you won't be able to run away at all. Second, sending so many people to die, you really are the opponents. Did you go undercover in the Baroque works? Boy, after seeing my form, do you still think you can beat me? ISS Valentine slowly stood up from R5, and his momentum began to increase. Form, Luogu thought for a while and said, a form with brighter colors. I'll kill you. ISS got angry instantly on Valentine's Day. He was already on the verge of breaking out, but Luogu still refused to open the pot. It is also very painful to use language to poke people's hearts. The next second, ISS Valentine was already flying, swaying in the wind, getting higher and higher. Luogu jumped up and followed the hole to the upper deck. Looking at the ISS Valentine in mid-air, he sighed and said, how unreserved. ISS was stunned for a moment on Valentine's Day, then became furious. 10,000 kilograms, the overwhelming weight of Mount Tai. It was as if a jack fell in the air. Luogu originally planned to draw the knife, but seeing her like this, an interesting idea suddenly came to his mind. He immediately took his hand away from the handle of the knife and put his hands on it. It's like a tower, and it directly caught the legs that fell down from Valentine's Day. With the huge force on his body, Luogu moved his feet slightly, losing some of his strength, because he felt that if he kept it as it was, there would be an extra hole in the upper deck. During the slight movement of the feet, the strength was scattered and acted on the entire ship. The whole ship suddenly sank slightly, and then returned to its original shape. On the boat, Luogu held ISS Valentine's knee with both hands, looked at the girl in front of him and said with a smile, "It's very good, can it be heavier?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate's Bounty, Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 56. ISS Valentine looked at the man in front of her with dumbfounded eyes. The weight of the light and floating fruit that I eat can be freely transformed by the body. The lightest time is 1 kilogram, and the heaviest can reach kilograms. The person is in mid-air, maintaining a force of kilograms and directly crushing him down. With such force, let alone catching it, normally you will die if you rub it, if you touch it you will die. But the guy in front of him not only caught him, but most importantly, he actually asked himself if he could sink a little deeper. ISS swears on Valentine's Day that if she can, she is really willing to become 1,000,000 kilograms immediately and crush this bastard into a pulp while alive. Luogu stared at ISS Valentine's face for a long time, then sighed, "It seems like it won't work. Why are you so disappointed?" ISS Valentine's Day is becoming more and more incomprehensible. It's nothing. If it's kilograms, it's fine. It's pretty good. It took me a lot of effort to catch you just now. So, you should be quite useful. Luogu smiled and said, "Let me ask you a question. If you answer it well, maybe I will help you with R5. Help me." ISS Valentine's body suddenly felt light and airy, the umbrella brought airflow, and the whole person suddenly floated to the side. "How can you help me?" "Answer my question first," Luogu asked. "This time you are here to find me. I heard you say before that the purpose of coming here is to invite me to join the Baroque Working Society. That's it." ISS gritted his teeth on Valentine's Day. If he hadn't come to invite this guy, how could 5 have died? Luogu nodded. "Who gave the order?" R0. ISS Valentine sneered, "Even if he said the code name, you don't know who it is." Crocodile, Luogu said to himself, his eyes thoughtful, "Although I don't know how this guy knows me, but since he invited me, when can I meet him if I agree to him?" "How do you know the name Crocodile?" ISS Valentine was dumbfounded. "Now I'm asking you, if you want to solve this matter, you'd better listen to me and answer my questions." Luogu glanced at IR5's body in the kitchen and shrugged helplessly. "After all, my partner died tragically." "Hateful." ISS Valentine gritted his teeth and said, "If you agree to join us, we will take you out of the East China Sea and into the Great Sea Route. But for R0, you won't be able to see it for the time being. He is planning a big thing now, and I don't know the specific details. And you will be temporarily placed on Whiskey Mountain and become one of them. If you have enough strength, you will also be able to climb up." So, his plan to plot Alabasta has already begun. Luogu touched his chin and said, "Do you know how to get to Alabasta?" "How could I know?" ISS Valentine suddenly felt weird. Why did this guy in front of me know so much information? Luogu sighed, "Then this becomes very difficult. After all, I don't know how to get to Alabasta. If I can't see R0, I won't be able to help you with your matter." "How on earth are you going to help me?" ISS Valentine felt that before she heard anything, she couldn't be completely led by Luogu. Luogu smiled and said, "It's very simple. Find R0 and tell him that 5 was killed by me because he occupied the position that should have belonged to me. This ISS Valentine blinked his eyes and suddenly felt that this would work. But now it seems that it doesn't work, Luogu said. After all, even if you don't know how to get to Alabasta, how can you see him, right? No, it's okay. It doesn't matter if you can't see her. I have a phone bug here and you can make calls. ISS Valentine swallowed, then took out a phone bug from somewhere and looked at Luogu eagerly. If Luogu was just talking casually, then this matter would naturally be impossible to continue. But if what Luogu said is true, then he is indeed safe. Dial. Luogu smiled slightly. Is Valentine's Day immediately started dialing with trembling fingers. After a moment, a beeping sound came from over there. After ringing like this for a while, a deep voice said, "Who?" "It's me," ISS Valentine said tremblingly. ISS Valentine, the deep voice then asked, "What happened? Didn't I tell you not to use phone bugs to contact me without my permission?" "Yes, I know." ISS Valentine didn't know what to say for a moment, especially after hearing that voice. He was so frightened that he couldn't speak at all. At this time, Luogu extended his hand to ISS Valentine, and ISS Valentine seemed to be amnesty, and quickly handed the receiver to Luogu. Luogu coughed and said, "Ahem, this is Noros Luogu. I'm glad to be able to communicate with you, Mr. Crocodile." There was silence on the other end of the phone for a while. Luogu was not in a hurry. After waiting quietly for a few seconds, there was another voice from the other end. "Who told you my identity?" "I said I guessed it, do you believe it?" Luogu looked at ISS Valentine and smiled maliciously. ISS Valentine's Day is already jaw-dropping. What on earth does this guy want to do? Then she heard Luogu say, "In short, you sent someone to invite me, and I'm very happy. But although becoming a member of the Baroque Working Society is quite attractive, it just places me on Whiskey Mountain. Are you a little too underestimated? Then I heard that one of the senior agents of your organization can only be succeeded after one of your organization's senior agents dies. So, I killed R5. For the time being, I can deign to become R5. Do you have any comments?" ISS Valentine has been hiding far away, always feeling that he will die before he can finish this phone call. "R5 is dead." Crocodile seemed a little surprised. "You are more fierce than I thought. Moreover, if I understood what you just said correctly, 5 is not your target." "Of course," Luogu said with a smile, "for me, it's either don't do it or do it for the best. This is the case for pirate hunters. I have become the strongest in the East China Sea, and I may be the strongest in the Grand Line. As for join your organization, well, you either don't do it, or if you want to do it, of course you want to be the boss. I don't know if you are interested, but move your butt, sit on the ground, and let me take your seat." Pirate's Bounty. Don't run away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 57. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone worm, and even the face of the phone worm was depressingly serious. Not far away, Valentine's Day at ISS has gone completely crazy. She felt that she had made a huge mistake by trusting Luogu. This guy is a complete lunatic, an egomaniac, and arrogant newcomer. Who does he think is on the other side of the phone bug? Crocodile. R0. One of the 7 martial arts under the king. When I didn't know, I only had the fear of R0. Now this fear is double. When Crocodile was a pirate in his early years, the bounty on his head was as high as million belly. The reason why it has never exceeded million is not because Crocodile is not strong enough, but because his bounty has not increased since he became King Shishibukai. From the perspective of ISS Valentine, Luogu was dancing on a wire rope. Below was a cliff. The bottom of the cliff was filled with all kinds of large iron nails with barbs, pointed upwards. He is looking for death. The scary thing is that you have to take yourself with you. Because this call was made by myself. Thinking of this ISS Valentine's Day, I have the urge to jump directly into the sea and drown, maybe it will be more enjoyable. Seconds like years. Is Valentine's Day feels like the weight of the air is suppressing me a lot, although I am far away across the ocean. The oppression brought by that person has not diminished at all, but is even more terrifying. Finally, an expression appeared on the phone bug's face. It turned out to be an expression of hysterical laughter. Goo ha ha ha. Crocodile's deep voice came out of the phone bug's mouth. It's interesting, I haven't seen someone like you for a long time. Well, then what? Logogoo's calmness was in sharp contrast to ISS's fear of Valentine's Day. Well, you are already R5 now. If you really have the ability to stand in front of me, then I will give you a chance to challenge me. Crocodile laughed wildly and said, also, is Valentine's Day still there? Here Logogoo glanced at her and asked, I want to talk to her. ISS Valentine shook her head silently and vigorously, with such force and determination that Logogoo felt that if she continued shaking like this, her brains would come out. Logogoo sighed, she seems reluctant to talk to you. ISS burst into tears on Valentine's Day. Do you dare to be more deceptive? Am I unwilling? I really don't dare. Oh, Crocodile's laughter stopped suddenly, and then he said coldly, forget it, from now on, she will be your partner, you can do whatever you want with her. Let her do whatever you want. In addition, I will convey the subsequent contact to you through an instruction letter. If the phone is bugged, the Navy may be able to monitor it. Okay, Logogoo said with a smile, then, you can hang up. Goo ha 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 ha, I'm looking forward to meeting you even more now. After the low and murderous words were over, before Logogoo hung up, Crocodile hung up the phone first. Logogoo connected the receiver of the phone, then glanced at ISS Valentine. Did you hear that? Heard something? A madman's last words. ISS wanted to cry on Valentine's Day, she felt like she had been tricked by Logogoo. But she still nodded. In fact, after hearing the conversation between Rogu and Crocodile, she felt an inexplicable awe of Rogu. Logogoo smiled and said, I can do whatever I want with you. Tell me, what do you want me to do? This seemed to be a very difficult question. Logogoo touched his chin and looked at ISS Valentine with searching eyes. ISS Valentine's expression stiffened, and she remembered the way this guy looked at her frequently when she was in Barity. Did he want to? Subconsciously, he put his two arms in front of him and made a defensive posture, but gave up in a blink of an eye, sitting on the ground, showing a broken look in his eyes, as if he had given up resisting, and even gave up on himself. At this time, Logogoo seemed to have already considered some things. He smiled and said to ISS Valentine, follow me. ISS Valentine's Day feebly climbed up from the ground and followed Logogoo. 20 minutes later, on deck. Logogoo was waving a solid iron rod, chopping and slashing one by one. The iron rod was very thick, and there was a woman tied to it. The woman's face was full of grief and anger, and she could even be said to be dying of shame and anger. At this time, she activated the ability of the light and fluffy fruit to help apply pressure on the iron rod, but Logogoo was using this to weaken her own strength. This disgusting bastard. When she knew that this guy planned to use her like this, SS Valentine's heart not only did not show the slightest joy, but instead contained an extremely strong anger. And what about Logogoo? Sure enough, a guy who can freely control his weight is simply a natural exercise equipment. While waving the iron rod, Logogoo was complacent about his own ideas in his heart. When he saw this guy floating into the sky and then using his weight to fall down, Logogoo had already started to have this idea uncontrollably. Otherwise, SS Valentine will be dead the moment it falls, and there will be no follow-up to these things. From this day on, Logogoo and ISS Valentine have reached an unwilling cooperative relationship. For ISS Valentine, whether it is Luogu's power or Crocodile's high pressure, they are terrifying forces that she cannot resist. So no matter what kind of grievances she suffered after following Luogu, she could only endure it. For Luogu, although SS Valentine's strength was not worth mentioning, her experience at sea, her understanding of the Baroque works, and her understanding of the Grand Route were all things he lacked. At this stage, if there is such a person by your side, it can indeed save a lot of things. Of course, these are all secondary. What is really important is that as a super smart fitness equipment that can adjust the weight at will, this guy is really easy to use. Then the days passed day by day, and the boat moved towards Rog Town in an orderly manner. 3 days before arriving in Luge Town, Luogu encountered a good thing. He had nothing to do that day and planned to dive underwater and have some fun. After all, it would be a pity not to use skills like diving. Then I found a sea king creature under the water. In the next 3 days, Luogu was satisfied with the quality of every meal. Most importantly, he discovered a new way to find Neptunians. Not all of these guys like to surface to look for food. They mostly hide and sleep in the deep sea. Therefore, it is absolutely impossible to find it without diving into the water. After eating Neptune-like meat and exercising crazily with the fluffy fruits of ISS Valentine, when he arrived in Rog Town, Luogu felt that his strength had improved to another level. This was the most satisfying thing for him. Then they set foot on the land of Rog Town. Pirate's Bounty Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 58. It was not just Luogu and ISS Valentine who set foot in Rog Town, there was also a corpse. Speaking of Aaron's body, I have to mention one more thing. The reason why this corpse has been preserved until now, and it is still not beyond recognition, is also thanks to the corpse preservation technology learned by ISS Valentine from who knows where. Although it is impossible to be immortal forever, it can be preserved for a long time. So after setting foot in Rog Town, Luogu took Aaron's body and went straight to the Navy station without saying a word. He had had enough of the fishy smell on Aaron's body. ISS Valentine followed Luogu dejectedly, looking like a victim. After this period of inhuman torture, she felt somewhat changed beyond recognition. The hat had long been dropped into the sea, and there was no change of clothes on the body. Not only was it dirty, but it was also seriously damaged. The only thing that is clean is her face, so I still have to pay attention to personal hygiene. But now it feels like a beggar who washed himself clean and came out to beg. This made ISS feel a little shameless on Valentine's Day. She used an umbrella to cover her face tightly for fear of being watched. Occasionally, I glanced at the heels of the man strutting in front of me from the edge of the umbrella. I couldn't help but feel the itch in my teeth, but I still dutifully said to him, "As for Rog Town, there is a guy in the Navy who is quite troublesome. Do you know? Smog." Luogu smiled and said, "It doesn't matter, we are not pirates." ISS Valentine nodded. However, the work company's affairs must still be kept confidential. Luogu nodded and showed a relieved expression to ISS Valentine. ISS Valentine rolled his eyes in response, but he also breathed a sigh of relief. Since the other party is determined to join the work club, he should not do anything detrimental to the work club. ISS is worried about being watched on Valentine's Day, but it cannot be avoided after all. Not to mention the appearance of the two of them, just the fact that Luogu dragged a half-headed corpse with one hand and dragged it along the street was enough for everyone to pay attention to them. In a place like Rog Town where dragons and snakes mix together, someone quickly recognized Luogu's identity. Then someone else identified the body. The strongest hunter, Nurse Ragu, he actually killed Aaron of the Dragon Pirates. 20 million big pirates died in his hands. Maybe he has no rivals in the East China Sea. Why do you say that the strongest one in the East China Sea is not the Creek pirates who have recently set foot on the Grand Line? Although Admiral Creek is also very strong, The strongest one in the East China Sea is Aaron. The bounty for Admiral Creek is only million, and Aaron is a big pirate with million. And he can easily capture a dragon. Now I am even more looking forward to what the strongest hunter can finally achieve. Will he set foot on the Grand Line? If it were me, I would stay in Donghai. Hey, who is the ant behind you? The chaotic sounds around him reached his ears, and when ISS Valentine suddenly heard the sentence, he immediately showed a threatening look at the person who spoke. The person who spoke was shocked and said, "What a scary anty. An ant who can follow the strongest hunter is definitely not an ordinary ant. Look carefully, it seems to be a girl." ISS burst into tears on Valentine's Day. Doesn't it take a closer look to see that she is a girl? Annoyed emotions rose like flames, but the umbrella in her hand was getting lower and lower, and she only hated that this thing couldn't wrap her whole body. Under such circumstances, two people came to the naval station with a dead body. The Navy at the gate had already received the news, and when they saw Luogu's arrival, they politely invited them in. The first thing to do is a series of verifications, whether it is for Luogu or Aaron. On the other hand, ISS Valentine said that he was only temporarily following Luogu and did not pursue her identity. Then it's time to go through the formalities and wait to get the money. The process went smoothly, and Luogu felt that if he came today, he might not even see Smoker. However, when the door of the office opened and a strong man walked in, Luogu knew that he was thinking too much. In the tavern, the smoke of Smoker cigars added more miscellaneous flavors to the already stagnant air in the tavern. Rogu is struggling with a serving of mixed fried rice. ISS Valentine looked at the 2 bags of money next to the table, then looked at Smoker, and finally placed them on Luogu's eating appearance. He rubbed his forehead helplessly, always feeling that his current situation was quite delicate. For Baroque works, the Navy was never a friend. "I know Lester." Smoker spoke. After Luogu finished all the fried rice on the plate, he asked the boss to make another one, and then said to Smoker, "This doesn't seem to be the reason why you have to treat me to a drink. When your letter arrived, Lester happened to be staying at my place," Smoker said, "so, he entrusted me with the investigation of Colonel Mouse. And the person investigating this matter had already replied yesterday. Arrive at Rogtown." Luogu glanced at Smoker in surprise. "First of all, I was surprised by the speed of the Navy. It turns out that if these guys really want to do something, their mobility is indeed terrifying. Secondly, Smoker guards Rogtown, and there is no reason to investigate Colonel Mouse. This is not within his scope of authority. Is it just because of Lester's request? Is this mentally retarded person still very popular among the Navy? As a result of the investigation, Colonel Mouse and Aaron, the evil dragon pirate group in Aaron's field, did maintain an abnormal cooperative relationship. As a result, Kokoyasi village was shrouded in Aaron's darkness for the past few years. I have already sent the results of this investigation to Lester. And this matter has come to an end." Luogu nodded. The fried rice was served, and he continued to eat. Smoker frowned and said, "You have nothing to say to me." These words seemed to have been pointed out. Luogu said while eating, "What do you want me to say to you?" "The whereabouts of Colonel Mouse." "Died." Luogu placed the plate on the table, looked at Smoker, and smiled, "Killed by me." Smoker's pupils suddenly shrank, and he pressed one hand on the table. The smoke from the 2 large cigars at the corner of his mouth showed signs of gathering and forming. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Pirate's Bounty, Don't Run Away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 59. The air pressure in the tavern dropped instantly, and the temperature in the air quickly dropped to freezing point at an almost visible speed. ISS Valentine subconsciously leaned back and hugged his arms. Shung. Of the two people in front of him, Luogu held a plate in one hand and a spoon in the other, with his elbows resting on the table. The smile on his face did not diminish at all, but there was a faint aura that made ISS Valentine feel dangerous, brewing from him. Smoker's eyes on the opposite side became more and more dangerous. The collision of the two men's gazes almost gave the air an illusion that was on the verge of breaking. Suddenly, Smoker took a deep breath and exhaled thick smoke. In the Navy, you have your own rules, and you shouldn't be in charge of dealing with Colonel Mouse's affairs. Luogu smiled calmly, that's good to say, but it's a pity that he didn't tell me these things when he found me. He took the initiative to find you. Smoker frowned. Does this guy think there is anything wrong with living? It's fine if you take the initiative to find me, and even plan to ask for my ship to conquer Aaron's domain. Luogu sighed. The most terrifying thing is that when I showed Aaron's body to him, he was unwilling to pay. Smoker was inexplicably discouraged, even from his standpoint. Looking at it this way, he felt that Colonel Mouse really wanted to die by himself. From Luogu's words, it can be heard that after coming out of Aaron's domain, this guy didn't seem to intend to find Colonel Mouse. As a result, he hit the muzzle of the gun eagerly. He sighed at the moment. Colonel Mouse's affair was exposed, he fled in fear of crime, and finally, encountered the Neptune type. Who do you think is a Neptune? Luogu frowned. And as a Navy, this matter is really settled. You shouldn't fight me, suppress it, and then let me beat you up, or you beat me up. Will we finally come to a conclusion on this matter? First of all, when do I need you to teach me something? Smoker looked coldly. Secondly, you didn't mean to trouble him in the first place. It was because he had bad intentions. How can I ask you to not fight back or scold him when guarding against some undesirable Marines? If you take action, death or injury is inevitable. If you do something wrong, you should bear the corresponding responsibility. Finally, he glanced at Luogu and said, since you are willing to be a pirate hunter, why should I force you to become a pirate just for a Navy scum? Oh, then the Navy headquarters is willing to believe this explanation. When do I need to explain something to the above? Smoker seemed to be disdainful of the Navy headquarters as he spoke. Luogu curled his lips, a little disappointed. I knew I wouldn't have told you so much. Smoker ignored him and instead raised a basket on the table and put it down. Lester asked me to hand it over to you. Luogu opened the basket, and there was a phone bug in it, which looked ugly and was milky yellow. For a moment, I was extremely disgusted with what kind of taste. There is a number in it, which is the number of his portable phone bug. He said that writing a letter is too time-consuming. If you need anything in the future, call him directly. Smoker said, the things this kid told me have been done. I also know what I want to know. I'll treat you to this meal. It was you who invited me. Luogu saw Smoker about to stand up and said, that guy has entered the Grand Line. Yes, Smoker said, through military channels, he will arrive in Marineford soon. Luogu said thoughtfully, whenever he comes to Marineford, he has something to do, and he plans to talk to your Navy about it. Tell us about the Navy. Hearing this, Smoker sat down again and said, what's the matter? You guard Rogtown, so you probably aren't too interested in this matter. Luogu said with a smile, it's a very troublesome thing, I want to hear it. Listen and see. Smoker said noncommittally, if you're not interested, I can pretend I didn't hear you. Is it really okay to be so casual? Luogu was a little speechless, and then said, there is a country on the Grand Line called Alabasta. Crocodile, one of the Shishibukai under the king, formed a group called Baroque Working Society. On the surface, he is a pirate hunter organization, actually gathered a group of people, under his leadership, to plot to seize this country. ISS Valentine stood up with a clang, the chair behind him lying on the ground. Almost without saying a word, he turned and ran. However, in the air, the smoke gathered and scattered, turning into two strands and imprisoning her on the spot. This is the smoke fruit. ISS Valentine's mouth opened in despair. Smoker looked at Luogu strangely. Who is this ant? Baroque Works, R5's original partner SS Valentine, Luogu said. I talked to Crocodile on the phone and temporarily became R5 of Baroque Works. This woman is now my partner. Of course, you can also understand it. An informant, a tainted witness, whatever. Smoker glanced at ISS Valentine and found that the woman's face was full of broken emotions. He couldn't help but mutter, I'm afraid this informant is involuntary. It doesn't matter, these are all details, Luogu said. If she doesn't want to, you can kill her. ISS burst into tears again on Valentine's Day. Is it really okay to decide so easily what to do with herself in front of her? Then she found that both Rogu and Smoker were looking at her together, as if they were waiting for her decision. My heart suddenly began to struggle. Crocodile's terrifying pressure, Rogu's strength, Smoker's terror, pressure from different aspects came together, and she felt that she was about to be deformed by this pressure. However, Crocodile's pressure is a little less after all, the two men in front of him are close at hand. If you don't agree, you will die. But I still want to struggle. Crocodile is one of the King's 7 martial arts. There is nothing you can do against him. ISS Valentine gritted his teeth. Luogu glanced at Smoker and said, kill him. I represent the Navy of Justice, and I will not do this kind of thing. Smoker's words gave ISS a glimmer of hope on Valentine's Day. As a result, the next second, I heard Smoker continue to say, if she is a fruit ability user, then when you leave Rogue Town, can't you just find a sea area and throw her into the sea? Aren't you inhumane? ISS is jaw-dropping on Valentine's Day. Luogu nodded, that makes sense. Hey, don't be easily persuaded. Think about it again. ISS Valentine's mood also collapsed. If you say a few more words, I might agree. Yeah, Luogu said, just a few words. ISS was speechless for a moment on Valentine's Day, and then said loudly, I do. Very good, Luogu said. Look, we have an informant, or a tainted witness. Smoker looked at ISS Valentine seriously. How much do you know about what Crocodile is going to do? Luogu was a little surprised. You believe it so easily. A pirate will always be a pirate, no matter what kind of identity and reputation is attached to him. Smoker's eyes showed disgust for pirates, especially Crocodile. Personal matters. The compatibility is not compatible, and I believe in Lester's vision. Smoker looked at ISS Valentine and said. ISS Valentine pursed her lips, I don't know anything. The only thing I know is that there will be a big operation in Alabasta. But before the operation, we don't know much about the specific matters. It doesn't matter, she will know, Luogu said. To put it simply, what Crocodile has to do is to become the hero of this country. He provokes civil strife and plunges the entire country into dire straits. Finally, he jumps out to calm it down. Everything, becoming the savior of the entire Alabasta. It goes without saying what will happen next. Yes, Smoker nodded and said, I will record all of this. From the mouth of ISS Valentine, a member of the Baroque Working Group, I know everything you mentioned above. ISS Valentine's Day. Pirate's Bounty, don't run away. Author, The Desolate Little Purity. Chapter 60. ISS feels very melancholy on Valentine's Day. The current dilemma was something she had never thought about before coming to Donghai. When she received R0's instruction sheet, her only thought was to make a fuss out of a molehill. I don't feel that a newcomer is worthy of an invitation from a senior agent like her who came to the East China Sea from the Great Route. And he maintained a feeling of jealousy and anger towards this newcomer, and it was precisely because of this that there was the initial demonstration. However, the development of things was beyond her expectation. R5 died simply, and she died in her own hands. Luogu became the new R5, which already made her extremely depressed. In addition, Luogu Jiangran treated her as a training tool, which made her feel even more insulted than ever before. But now, this guy actually started to betray the organization with himself. And she was powerless to resist. What an ill-fated fate. SS Valentine's Day feels like her future is dark. Luogu, who was opposite him, finished another portion of assorted fried rice at this time. Luogu, who felt his stomach was slightly satisfied, looked at Smoker. Then I probably told you what happened now, and you and Croc we still can't get along with that guy Dar, so what are you going to do? Smoker took a drag on his cigarette and said, I won't do anything, but I will tell Lester about this. That guy has average strength, but he is very good at making friends. It's definitely a hidden talent. Luogu nodded, that's it? Smoker glanced at him. I won't be disappointed that such an important secret was revealed casually, and I didn't rush to show my commitment to justice. Facing the evil party trying to subvert a country, turned a blind eye. Whatever. Luogu smiled non-committally, maybe I also believe in Lester's vision. In fact, as a time traveler, Luogu naturally knew what kind of person Smoker was. Smoker was non-committal about Luogu's words, and asked instead, why would you target a Shishibukai? Luogu shook his head, it's not that I'm targeting the Shishibukai, but the Shishibukai is targeting me. As a pirate hunter, I'm so panicked right now. I didn't see it. Smoker looked at Luogu carefully. Besides, I feel like you still want to laugh. Because, it's very interesting, Luogu said with a smile. Crocodile's bounty back then was million Baileys. Once such a guy is deprived of his status as a Shishibukai, he will definitely become a pirate like me. One of the hunter's most anticipated goals. It's like a hunter going deep into the jungle to find prey, but the prey finds the hunter on its own initiative. Yeah. Smoker was slightly silent, then patted Luogu on the shoulder and said, let's go. No delivery. Well, don't die. Leaving such a sentence, the burly navy walked out of the tavern after paying for the meal. Luogu listened to the creaking sound of the cowboy door and patted his stomach, which was not particularly satisfied. Let's go too. ISS Valentine followed Luogu out of the tavern with a lifeless look in his eyes. Where are we going now? Before that, what she was most looking forward to was returning to the Great Route, but now she felt that she could stay here one more day, just one more day. This fear of the Great Route is somewhat similar to the fear of the first day of school for students who have not done their homework. Well, go to a boat repairer and change the bow. Replace it with what? A Neptune-like head, Luogu said uncertainly. ISS Valentine's Day. After finally coming to Luge Town, the most famous place in the East China Sea, as a house that has read the original book, it is natural to take a good look at the surrounding customs. Things like repairing the ship and changing the bow just happen to take a few days. So Luogu took ISS Valentine to stay in Rajtown for a few days. The past few days have also been calm, without any disturbances. Although the news that the pirate hunter Noros Rogu is in Rogtown has spread like wildfire, no one has come to cause trouble. Firstly, Rogtown is guarded by Smog. This guy has a big name. Even if there are pirates who dare to come to Rogtown, most of them behave with their tails between their legs and don't want to appear in this person's eyelids. Underneath, looking uncomfortable. Secondly, Luogu's record is put here. Let alone the little pirates in the East China Sea, it would be good if Luogu doesn't cause trouble for him. In fact, Luogu was very dissatisfied with this point. As a pirate hunter, I am already arrogant enough, but these guys don't even come to attack me. As men in the sea, they are really ashamed. A few days passed, and the ship was completely new. The holes on the upper deck were repaired and the hull was strengthened. The bow of the boat has never been in the shape of a roast duck or a swan, but has changed into a beast head with teeth and claws. Although I don't know if it is a Neptune, but Luogu is quite satisfied. After all, it looks very imposing. And the Ketman brothers in the lower prison, and the Murloc brothers Ju and Crow Obi, also changed to a brand new house, which improved several levels of sturdiness. Luogu spent a lot of money for this, but overall it was worth the money. Then Rogu set off. I came to Rogtown, saw Smoker, and walked around carefully in the past few days. Roger's execution platform and other famous scenic spots have seen all that should be seen. It can be said that my curiosity has been fully satisfied, so there is naturally no reason to stay. Smoker came to see him off in person, and this time he was not alone, accompanied by a girl wearing glasses. He followed behind Smoker, step by step, looking a little silly. This is Dashiki. Smoker introduced Luogu and said, she will act with you for the time being. Rogu blinked, waiting for Smoker to continue. However, Smoker had no intention of continuing and waved goodbye. This time Luogu was really dumbfounded. What the hell? Hello Daisuke, carrying a big burden and hanging a knife on his waist, took a step forward, nodded to Luogu, and then boarded the boat. Smoker looked at Luogu's appearance and reluctantly said, she will come back after the matter is over. Goodbye, Smoker said with some uncertainty, staring at Luogu, and finally got on an exaggerated-looking motorcycle and disappeared in a flash. Is this here to say goodbye or to give a gift? Luogu looked back at Dashiki, who was standing at the bow of the boat, looking around curiously, and scratched his head. I also gave him a yellow flower girl.